good afternoon. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. Today, I'm really thrilled to have with me as my guest Karen Abesamis, who's a partner at Morgan Lewis. Karen, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Karen, I see from your LinkedIn profile you describe yourself as the Leslie Knope of M&A, and maybe you can start by describing to me and my audience who's Leslie Knope.
So, good question. Leslie Knope is a character on a TV show called Parks and Rec.
Okay.
It aired on NBC, but you can find it on Netflix now. And she is this eager, happy, optimistic woman in government who, at her heart, just wants to do good for her community and her circle.
Huh.
And she doesn't let the bad things get to her. She has binders and binders of ideas, even if it's something as simple as, what am I doing for my best friend's birthday? And I am a very type A list focused person. And I love that she brought not just the organization, but also the fun energy around it. I personally think Leslie Knope is the one who popularized Galentine's Day, which is something that I traditionally celebrate with my friends. So I also have her to thank for that
Oh,
cultural
that's so funny. So now when you saw that show and you saw her the character, were you thinking, that's me? Is that how is that what
Yes.
you're thinking?
Very much, very much. Although I suspect I do not have nearly the same a gift that she has for planning events, but I do think that I have the same optimism and dedication to what I do and the same addiction to binders and organization.
I need to come and check out your office. So, I mean, so have you, I assume you've been this since a kid. I mean, tell me, like, what is this what you were like in high school and college and law school growing up, or what was it like?
Sadly, yes. I think you'll see at the end of this explanation that popular was not something I was going for as a kid. So I always liked the idea of mini challenges.
Huh.
So for summer break, for example, when I was in elementary school, I would make a goal. So I'm going to read all Nancy Drew books for the whole summer, and I would ask my dad to photocopy the front of the book so that I could color it in and kind of write my, general thoughts on it. So like mystery, a 4, dynamic, a 3, situation, a 2. And so I would do all of that kind of naturally. I'm also probably because of my heritage, I'm Filipino. I was born in the Philippines, and we love food. And so I would always have this list, even as a child, and I would say, okay, it's Friday. We're going out to eat as a family. These are my top 3 picks of things that I saw when I was at the mall last, because we didn't have, Yelp and Insta at that time. So I've always been goal focused, but also with a fun spin on it, at
Oh,
least I think.
so now, were you a dream child for your parents or a nightmare because of this?
I suspect that they found that particular trait more endearing than anything, but my mom did tell me recently that she was horrified at my constant ask to please go to Office Depot, because she's like, "How many pens do you need?" And I was like, "Well, it's gel on this one. It's, a .2 fine pen on this one." I had a lot of,
So
visual.
I can imagine when you were in law school, you had your case textbooks highlighted in 4 different colors. And
Oh, of
is,
course.
is, is that is that how you studied and did your cases and stuff like that?
Absolutely. I think to
Yeah.
me, it's not just about organization, but doing so in a way that sticks with you, that resonates with you, that makes it happy
Yeah,
even for
right.
you to do it.
Oh,
And so
funny.
for me, the outlines for the bar, it wasn't just, okay, I gotta go do all these outlines. I was really picky about, margins and font and all of that stuff,
That's so
because it was hard
yeah,
at that
yeah,
time. And it
yeah.
was a really nice piece of relief
Huh.
and joy that was easy to have while I was studying for the bar.
So when did you make the decision to go to law school, and what made you go to law school? I mean, does that have anything to do with this personality, or not?
I think it's probably to do with this personality and the fact that I was a child of the 80s. So, like I mentioned, I was born in the Philippines, Asian family, and I think, as is typical for many immigrant families, whose parents said we're going to make this huge move for the betterment of our children, it was doctor or lawyer.
Okay.
There
Yeah.
wasn't really a lot of other options. And I knew I didn't want to be a
Doctor.
doctor, so it sounded like law was going to be where it was at.
Oh, interesting. And so did you like law school? I mean, it's not usually often seen as the most exciting place, but maybe you loved it. I don't know. What did you think of it?
You know what? I thought law school was fine. So I worked full time through law school. So I went to law school and MBA school at night.
Mm,
And so what was funny for me is that, your first couple years in big law, it's always, exhausting, it's stressful. But for me, it was actually less so because
wow.
I only had one job at that
Oh.
time as opposed
What
to
did you do
working.
what did you do in law while you were going to law school?
So I worked as a legal assistant
Oh,
at a
wow.
DUI law firm,
Oh,
and
wow.
then I went on to do various other legal related jobs, trying to just get some good experience in corporate law, but also, frankly, to pay the bills
Yeah, yeah,
and make
yeah.
sure that I wasn't going into kind of extreme debt.
Well, I mean, that sounds like a pretty long day working as a, whatever, and then going to school at night, plus all the homework you got to do and the reading. So that does sound like very long days.
Yeah. So for me, law school was, the last thing on my day, and it was very much this is the step that's going to get me to my end goal. So going back to my traditional to-do list, this is a long-term to-do, but it's an investment that I'm making in the future that I really want for
Mhm.
myself.
Now, at what point did you decide you were going to become a transactional lawyer, or did you know that from the beginning, or were you thinking of being a litigator for a while?
I never, ever considered being a litigator. And I think that's to your question about what did I think of law school. I think law school is so geared towards litigators,
Right.
and less so to transactional. So when I was at my day job, and then obviously when I started working, I was really happy to be more in that transactional space.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't have any lawyers in my family growing up, but I did have a lot of accountants and finance people. And for what I saw, they were always analyzing the text to see how they could manipulate it into spreadsheets and what was it meant to interpret, how could you make adjustments, were things done right? And I like the words part of it, not so much the numbers, although of course, as they say, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer so I don't deal with numbers. It's not true. We deal with numbers all the time. And I really enjoy that part. And again, to throw it back to Nancy Drew, to me, it was always this mystery problem solving.
Hmm.
How do I line up the pieces to get to, the end goal, even if the end goal isn't exactly
Yeah.
perfect?
How did you know about a lot of people go to law school, they don't know about being a transactional lawyer because they always think of, TV drama, so they think everyone's a litigator. Or how did you know about being a transactional lawyer?
From working.
Oh,
So
okay.
I worked through college as well, although not full time. Because of the school schedule, the job I got was actually data entry for a litigation tech discovery company. And so when
Mm,
I was doing that, I was getting a chance to work with the business side of the company I work for. And so obviously for the litigation stuff, it was kind of going over my head, and I wasn't really supposed to be paying too much attention to the client details anyway. It was more satisfying discovery elements. But I really enjoyed how they were talking about the contracts they were negotiating with clients, how they were going to enter into this contract for marketing, listening to their discussions on how the pay structure would be done related to these tasks. And so to me, that was something that I could see myself doing.
got it, got it. So then how did you evolve your practice now to what you're doing now, the M&A practice? How did it kind of evolve to that stage?
Yeah, so I started at the law firm in 2008, which of course was the absolute best time to start as a first year lawyer. It was hard that first year. I think 3 months in, the layoffs started across the industry, obviously not just impacting Morgan Lewis. And I was fortunately spared from that. But one of the really nice unintended consequences of it was that my group, just desperate to make sure I could stay and demonstrate my hours, they were like, go do work for anybody. You know, we'll introduce you to the tax group, we'll introduce you to the litigation group for diligence purposes, antitrust, all these things. So I think I actually got a wider breadth of initial experience in various groups. And so, as we all know now, with financial downturn comes a boost in M&A for distressed companies. And so a lot of the work that I was doing at that time had to do with that. And then when the economy picked up, of course, which it did with absolute fire, then I got to do securities, I got to do private equity, I got to do ECVC. But really, I just kept coming back to, I like doing mergers and acquisitions. I like the way you are problem solving for the issue at hand. You know, our job as M&A lawyers is to identify the risks and work with the client to figure out how to mitigate those. And so it does involve some creativity. It involves considering various options. It involves a lot of list making. So again, really ties back to my interests and my strengths. So I really tried to pursue the M&A front, and the firm continues to be extremely supportive on that.
That's pretty interesting. Do your clients, do they appreciate your hyper organization and hyper keeping on top of everything? I mean, M&A, obviously, tons and tons of issues. I mean, I can see why that would be a very good fit, but are they always impressed by how much you're on top of everything?
I think they appreciate the very short punch lists that I send out. So one of the other experiences I was able to get at the law firm was I was seconded to a client for 100% of my time, which meant that I really got to live that in-house life.
Yeah.
And in that position came a lot of interaction with business folks.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
realized that for in-house lawyers, what's really hard is you're sitting in meetings by virtue of just being a lawyer.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes it's not about what the skills you really bring to the table are. You provide comfort to your business colleagues that there's a lawyer in the room, even if you don't say anything. And so I would come out of the day and think, oh my gosh, I haven't checked my email, I haven't done any actual substantive work because I've been in all these business meetings now.
Yeah.
And I came back to the firm and thought, you know, I would have really appreciated just a short punch list. Don't give me the full transaction checklist. Just tell me, what are the things I missed in the 6 hours I've been in meetings? What is it I need to focus on? Reattach everything to it. And make somebody's life a little easier. And if I make your life easier, you are going to see the value in what I can bring for you, not just as an M&A negotiator, but also as a partner in getting deals done.
Interesting. So did that brief stint as an in-house experience kind of, I mean, did you conclude from that you don't like in-house? Is that, or you prefer being in private practice? Is that what your conclusion was, or?
At the time, I mean, I will never say I will not do X because you just never know. I mean, case in point, COVID, right? I don't think any of us ever expected to have that experience in our lifetime. But at that point in my career, I was very happy with the trajectory I was on. I was set to make partner relatively soon thereafter. And I really wanted that, again, goal for myself. And I thought I still had a lot of learning to do. So I wasn't ready to make that jump at that time. I don't think I'm ready quite yet now. I'm pretty happy where I am, but it was still a really invaluable experience.
Now, I'm going to guess you're on the top of every associate's mentor list, just because you're so organized and you're probably very methodical and because, associates often need checklists. I mean, it helps them kind of get organized, especially when you're new, you don't know where the beginning, where the end is. I mean, is that the case, or do you enjoy mentoring and helping associates with that?
I do. I really enjoy the mentoring part, partly because I had really good mentors. And so, again, to the whole point, pay it forward. But I suspect that there's good and bad to me when it comes to being a mentor. On the one hand, I think as a mentee of mine, you walk out with checklists you will use for life, basic understanding of how to structure emails in a way that make not just the client, but senior partners very happy, and just a general sense of completeness to your day.
Yeah,
There's not that
yeah.
wondering like, well, did I do this? Did I do that? I encourage them like, here's how you should structure your checklist for your deals, but also here's what you should think of for your career. Are you taking the time, once a month to write notes about what you did for your annual performance review? Because otherwise what's going to happen, and it's happened to me, is at the end of the year, you're struggling to think, well, what were all those things that I did? And not being able to write that down and show that to the people who are looking at these reviews, it's just doing you a disservice. So
Mm.
I think that they probably enjoy that. What they probably don't enjoy is me, constantly saying, what's the current update? Did you update this particular list? Because I'm extremely detail oriented and focused, and I want to work with others who are as well on the associate side.
I mean, it sounds like being a lawyer, an M&A lawyer sounds really the perfect fit for you. But did you have a backup plan career? Have you ever thought about that? If you weren't a lawyer, what else you would have done? Any thoughts on that?
Well, when I was a child, it was to own an ice cream store, but that was not a true plan. My backup plan was going to be therapy. I
Oh.
think that one of the reasons I'm a good lawyer is because I do listen,
Mhm,
genuinely listen, and I
mhm,
try to problem solve.
mhm,
And that is true naturally, and partly why I enjoy being a lawyer, partly why I enjoy being a mentor. And so if I wasn't a lawyer, my guess is that's where I would have gone to try
mhm,
to really help people
mhm.
in that way.
What does your mom get you for Christmas gifts? Office supplies, staple office supplies now?
So what she gets, God bless my mother. My mother buys me clothes because I don't shop, and she has way better style than I do. And she gives me time, which is really the thing that I need. So her and my dad will go pick up my kids, fly them back down to LA, and just spend the weekend with them to
Oh,
let
nice.
me sleep in,
Yeah.
or to be able to go to the spa, or go see my girlfriends, or just even have a nice moment at home with my husband. So I think my parents really do appreciate that. They do, however, know my love of stationery, so they will occasionally throw into my stocking like washi tape or like a really good highlighter.
Well, Karen, this has just been such a fun conversation. I've done a lot of these interviews, but I can't remember the last time I laughed this much. So it was such a thrill to have you. You've got a wonderfully unique personality, and it was really great to chat with you and hear your story.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. It was great meeting you.
This is Richard Hsu and Karen Abesamis. Thanks.